This has to be one of the most requested subjects on my channel. And let's be honest, why wouldn't you want to know about Vashtorr the Arkifane? This demonic antagonist seeks to challenge the 4 Chaos Gods. He is the master of the Soul Forge, creator of all demonic weaponry, inspiration and spiritual leader of the Dark Mechanicum, and by his will alone has he almost soloed the entire Imperium during the Arks of Omen campaign. So, where is he now? Why haven't we seen Vashtorr in recent lore? What has he been up to? He seems a little too important to just leave on the sideline. I mean, he was on his way to become a freaking god. Why has he just disappeared in the novels? Well, in today's video, we are going to take a look at Vashtorr the Arkifane's entire story, from the moment he was introduced all the way back in the 4th edition Chaos Demons Codex, his reintroduction during the Arks of Omen campaign, and then end off with the theories of what he is actually up to, and why it's a good idea for Games Workshop to keep him in the back pocket until they actually wanna end the Warhammer 40K timeline. By the end of today's video, we will have covered every single detail you need to know about Vashtorr. Why and when was he formed in the Warp? Is he a Chaos God in disguise? What was his plan during the 13th Black Crusade? What is that massive, insane weapon he keeps talking about? And how does this entity suddenly reappear in real space? Did he just decide the Warp was boring? Or does it have something to do with a certain Omnissiah sleeping deeply underneath Mars? All that and a whole lot more in today's video. Alright, let's get into the lore. Although the Imperium has been beset on all sides for 10,000 years, the 13th Black Crusade was nearly the final nail in its coffin. Although the Avenging Sun and the Lion have returned to the crumbling Empire, a new evil swirls in the whispers of the Warp. Instead of a god, instead of Abaddon destroying Cadia and opening the cicatrix maledictum that sundered the galaxy in half, there is a new, ancient threat that has re-emerged. An evil so ancient, even the Old Ones and the original Catan remember its name. Vashtorr the Arkifane has arisen. He once again walks the mortal planes, a thing of creation, the corrupter of creativity, the fault in the code of the universe. Not only do servitors wail, fortresses tremble, and god machines hesitate before his might, the Chaos Space Marine legions themselves, the veterans of the Long War, seek his approval and his creations. For Vashtorr is not just a demon, he is an architect, a builder of weapons, a designer of ships, and a destroyer of empires. Through Vashtorr, the Soul Forges grind out uncountable hordes of demonic war machines, fusions of demon and machine so horrific, yet effective, that they left even Perturabo of the Iron Warriors impressed and disgusted. But the Forges are not just for Vashtorr himself, they are but a tool of his craft. Every demon in the Warp, every single member of the Chaos Pantheon, seeks to deal with Vashtorr. His weapons and gifts bring dominion beyond imagination. A Chaos Warband using one of his soul grinders finds any fortress easily assailed. A demonic horde carrying his Hellblades easily defeats any other host. But as is common with demons, a price has to be paid for these mighty tools of war. A price of souls is demanded by the Forge, kindling for the fire, fuel for the machines. But for those who cannot pay, or do not complete their contracts in time, servitude is the only payment left, and Vashtorr happily takes any free labor he can get. Yet the Arkifane does not seek the destruction of the galaxy. He does not want the Imperium destroyed forever. Creativity fuels him, unfettered scientific progress empowers him, and if every human or living being were but a chaos spawn, creation in itself would come to a halt. But Vashtorr does not just wish to grow in power, he wants to overthrow the Chaos Gods. He wishes to be the one in Ascension and enslave the Pantheon to his own mathematical will. His every artifice is meant to be malevolent. He seeks to corrupt not through trickery and lies, but through the straightforward temptation of a tool unused. While the Adeptus Mechanicus worship the machine god known as the Omnissiah, Vashtorr is exactly that in everything but name. He has near limitless control over technology. He can project his consciousness into machinery, hacking communication arrays, power networks, and even enemy guns on a whim. Those unfortunate enough to face him in battle find their weapons, armor, and mechanical components turned against him. He can unmake any device wrought by the hands of mortals with but a gesture of his clawed hands. But who exactly is Vashtorr the Arkifane? Well, to get the best understanding of him, let's follow his part in the Arks of Omen campaign, step by step, focusing on everything he does and says, because in all honesty, Vashtorr answers everything himself, and he's pretty clear with his explanations. He's not really a god of trickery, more a god of simple zeros and ones. We know that Vashtorr the Arkifane is the one who commands the Soul Forges, a metaphysical space in the warp where souls maintain these infernal forges day and night. Here the demonic legions come to bargain for their weapons and tools of war. Vashtorr is a shrewd arms dealer, making straightforward deals, demanding souls to keep his forges running forever. Unlike other demons, Vashtorr does not lie or hide the truth of his plans. Instead, he preys on the dishonest nature of demons to trick them into serving him forever. Many demons come to Vashtorr out of their own will, seeking to turn themselves into greater tools of slaughter to better serve their god, to escape banishment and attack those who defy them. Those who can pay the price do so, others who can't serve the Arkifane and the Soul Forges until their debts are cleared. Yet some end up serving the Soulforge King forever, unable to escape their soul debt. Although Vashtorr plays a side role in the great game of chaos, offering weapons and tools to all four gods, they in turn find themselves unable to attack or subvert Vashtorr as easily. After all, if one god finds themselves unable to use the weapons of the Soul Forges, they might become prey to their rivals. It is in the Soul Forges where many demon engines are created, such as soul grinders, all of which are owned by Vashtorr and only given out on loan. In the Soul Forges, Vashtorr himself, his demons, and the relentless overseers are always at work. Yet how did the Soul Forges ever come into being? Some believe that Vashtorr is a byproduct of humanity's dark age of technology. Others say he's the very architect of it and caused the Age of Strife. There are many other theories, but as seen in Arks of Omen Lion, Vashtorr is pretty clear to Abaddon from what time period he originated.
Long before the forebears of your race squirmed midst primordial ooze, a war there was between entities you would consider gods.
I know of the great game and the gods that play it, snarled Abaddon. I am not their pawn. I want nothing of any weapon they control. Vashtorr waved the objection aside.
Different gods they were, pantheons bound to the realm of mortal things that had wrought their own divinity. On one side, they who were named the Old Ones. On the other, the parasite gods of Void and Star. Furor they raised across the void, dread powers they unleashed, such even they with their mantles of omnipotence comprehended not. Fire they yoked, never believing it would burn them.
Determined not to gratify the demon by showing how intrigued he was, Abaddon merely crooked an eyebrow with his chest. Though his heart beat quicker, such power was precisely what he sought.
Long and long raged their conflict, heavy was its price. One after one they toppled, and lesser minds crawled in their wake. Craven, desperate, they saw not the power of their vanished master's devices, but only the terror of what such technologies had wrought. That which they could not break apart or unmade, the fearful sealed away in realms, neither empiric nor corporeal. The vault they locked, the key they sundered.
It's pretty clear that he is referencing the war in heaven, and seeing how accurate his descriptions are, even compared to the Eldari and their mythology stories, Vashtorr is definitely from around the war in heaven. Vashtorr feeds on ingenuity and science unleashed, nothing holding back the progress of technology. And when a massive war by robots and biologically engineered species rages for millions of years, there are a lot of inventions all the time. The perfect recipe to empower Vashtorr into what he is now. But here we also find a reason as to why he wishes to work alongside Abaddon and his 13th Black Crusade. He seeks a vault, a key, and a weapon within. Yet, why would Abaddon want to work with this new entity, especially one known to require insane and dangerous contracts to deal with? Abaddon has destroyed Cadia, the galaxy is split in half, and he continues his long war. Across Imperium Nihilus, countless worlds burn in his name. Across the Maledictum, Imperium Sanctus fights tooth and nail to hold back the endless tide of demons and heretical Astartes. Yet Abaddon is faced with an issue. During the Horus Heresy, he considered his Primarch to have made one vital error, which was rushing into the Siege of Terra. Abaddon is determined not to make the same mistake and so continues his long march. But the forces of the Imperium, under the leadership of Rabute Guilliman, have become a massive problem. The Imperium threatens to halt the Chaos advance, and through the Avenging Sun's love for logistics, draw out a galaxy-wide deadlock which would destroy both sides over the course of many millennia. Besides all this, the Necrons are returning under the leadership of the Silent King. The Orcs are snowballing into the biggest war ever seen, and even the Tyranids have shown up to engage with both sides. Abaddon has to do something, and he has to do it now. So while the vengeful spirit was being repaired after the battle at Vigilus, the entire vessel would suddenly become possessed by something evil. A group of Dark Mechanicum tech priests had summoned Vashtorr aboard the vengeful spirit, and the Arkifane took control of the entire vessel. Abaddon was enraged. Those involved in the summoning were interrogated and executed, and the despoiler confronted the Arkifane. Instead of a fight, however, he offered Abaddon his aid, asking only that he, in turn, also be helped in reaching his own goal. Vashtorr, after introducing himself and explaining his status as belonging to none of the Pantheon, was mocked as the god of cogitators by the despoiler. Vashtorr laughed at this, but when he explained his goal, Abaddon was quietly impressed. From this moment on, an uneasy alliance was created. Vashtorr would gift Abaddon powerful ships known as the Arks of Omen, who would hunt down the key to unlock a weapon that could help Abaddon beat the Imperium, and in return, Abaddon was required to help Vashtorr ascend to the status of godhood. The first battle fought during the Arks of Omen campaign was on Magdalor, the homeworld of the Iron Angels chapter. Vashtorr proved his word to Abaddon on this doomed planet. Here, the Iron Angels chapter would be destroyed, their gene seed looted, and more importantly, their reliquary ransacked by Vashtorr. During this, the Arkifane showed Abaddon the first of what he called the key fragments. With enough of these fragments combined, including 3 very important pieces of technology, Vashtorr could unlock a hidden weapon that would win Abaddon the long war. Yet although Abaddon was willing to engage in this campaign, he was unwilling to commit the entire Black Legion to what he saw as a secondary war. Instead, Vashtorr and Abaddon created the Bill Fleets, each spearheaded by an Ark of Omen. Well, someday I might do a massive deep dive into all of the biggest ships of Warhammer 40K. I'll give a super quick description of what an Ark of Omen actually is. Each Ark of Omen is a space hulk, corrupted by loads of demons and chained to the will of chaos. Essentially a semi-sentient living demon space hulk the size of a small moon. Abaddon sent words far and wide about the Arks of Omen. Any champion of Chaos or Warband may receive 1 Ark and a Bill Fleet under one condition. With these Bill Fleets, a champion was to first deliver Abaddon and Vashtorr a key fragment. and after that, they were free to use the ships and do as they wished. Many agreed to this, although many also had to earn their Arks of Omen by clearing out a space hulk of any dangers and threats, which would then be turned into their Ark by Vashtor's servants. Dozens of Arks of Omen were created, yet while as powerful as a battle group from the Indomitus Crusade, a Bill fleet had its strengths and weaknesses. Their warriors had no formal allegiance to Abaddon, save for a few who were given the most important key fragments to find. Bill fleets would be ripe with internal strife, but their greatest strength was their independence. A Bill fleet could rip apart multiple sectors and deliver its key fragment to the despoiler and then disappear within just a single year. Many would go on to use their Bill fleets to carve out their own empires. They required no coordination or further aid. But when the Arks of Omen were unleashed in the galaxy, all races and realms felt it. From the Tau Empire to the Segmentum Solar, the entire galaxy became a war zone. Imperial worlds were overrun, sometimes key fragments were found on abandoned worlds or in wild space. Yet the denizens of both the Materium and Immaterium were not idle, while Abaddon and Vashtorr plotted. Under the guidance of the Harlequins, all types of Eldar united to fight the Bill fleets. Entire craft worlds committed to hunting and destroying Arks. Drukhari cabals, Exodite and Corsairs all attacked invading Chaos forces across the galaxy. The Eldar even went as far as informing Lord Inquisitor Kotias and requesting his aid in counteracting the forces of Chaos. Kotias of course refused to aid the Eldar, but instead, he and Inquisitors across the galaxy put in motion their own plots. The wider Imperium was aware of the Bill fleets appearing, a threat that had to be fought, but they barely understood what was happening. Worlds were attacked at random, and resistance was hard to organize by the bureaucratic powers of the Administratum. Yet the Holy Ordos of the Inquisition managed to offer resistance. Inquisitorial strike forces ripped the throat from some Bill fleets. Entire Adeptus Astartes chapters managed to take out Bill fleets without any aid from the wider Imperium, and where the forces of the Indomitus Crusade were present, Bill fleets found the toughest resistance. Even other Xenos forces proved bothersome to Vashtor's plans. A Necron overlord vowed to personally destroy a Bill fleet that attacked him while slumbering, and a Tyranid High fleet consumed an entire Ark of Omen because it flew in their sublight pathway. Elsewhere, a Bill fleet was destroyed by an enslaver epidemic. In other places, they were attacked by the Wordbearers, who saw them as an affront to the gods, or raided by the Red Corsairs, seeking more loot for their master. However, even when the entire galaxy seemed to unite for a moment and attack Vashtor's creations everywhere, it was already too late. Even when the entire Indomitus Crusade Quartus fleet united in defense of a single system, they would be utterly destroyed by the re-emerged Demon Primarch Angron, and another fragment would be claimed. Vashtorr did not need every last key fragment to create his key, but what he did need was the Tukulcha engine. The Tukulcha engine is a powerful device which was originally used by Lionel Johnson to defeat the Night Lords 10,000 years ago during the Tramas Crusade. This device was not only capable of teleporting an entire fleet to a new location, but also did so promptly, without any delay or danger. Such a device allowing instant travel was harnessed into a horrifying weapon by the Lion. But after the destruction of Caliban, the device would only be used once by Azrael, which almost led to the destruction of the Dark Angels and all of their successors. Yet Vashtorr knew how to use it. These mere mortals had no idea what they were doing. It would surely not blow up in his face, right? Although the Inquisition so far has proven to be one of the largest thorns in Vashtor's side, Inquisitor Halax would finally be used as a tool against the Imperium. Halax was an Inquisitor of the Ordo Astartes who suspected the Dark Angels and Unforgiven of creating or acting as a legion. In hopes of gathering evidence, he bound an ancient and powerful device to his service. This device was capable of actually tracking where the rock the floating fortress monastery of the Dark Angels, traveled to. However, unbeknownst to the Mechanicus adepts or inquisitorial agents using his device, it had both a name and a dark secret. Orak Myriad was an abominable intelligence, and it could perfectly track such things as the rock and merely pretended to be a hard and imprecise machine in the hands of Inquisitor Halax. So with the aid of the Alpha Legion, Vashtorr took Orak Myriad for himself and promised the AI that he would give it a new body if it helped him. Not only did Orak Myriad agree, but it would personally lead the charge against the Sons of the Lion as the largest Ark of Omen yet, dubbed Orak Unleashed. On the world of Marwent's Reach, the Chaos Knights of House Corvax, alongside their allies of the Fallen, attacked. These warriors raised the banner of Be'lakor on this world, yet Roboute Guilliman had a vested interest in Marwent's Reach, continuing to aid his Indomitus crusade. So the chief librarian of the Ultramarines, Tigurius, took the 12th battle group of the Indomitus crusade, Fleet Primus. His forces were spearheaded by the Ultramarines, Nova Marines, and the Knights of House Raven, who were the loyalist brothers of the traitor Corvax Knights. However, due to the presence of the Fallen, the Dark Angels soon arrived in force as well, in hopes of capturing more prisoners and continuing their hunt. Yet, their arrival was a trap. Vashtorr and his forces attacked. Alpha Legion, Black Legion, and even Iron Warriors joined his demonic legions in assaulting the Rock. The Dark Angels fought a fighting retreat, hoping to regroup with the Indomitus Crusade forces and fight off the traitors. However, they were quickly overwhelmed and a fierce boarding action began. The chapter's veterans led their reserve companies in staging defenses all over the Rock. Yet the most elite of the chapter, those within the inner circle, moved deeper into the Rock itself, needing to guard their chapter's greatest relics and secrets. The fighting was brutal, Vashtorr himself bringing utter ruin to the Dark Angels and slaughtering dozens of them with his own hands. Vashtorr almost fought his way past the Nameless Gate, beyond which the Fallen were imprisoned, and also where the Tukulcha engine was located. Company Master Lazarus fiercely defended this innermost keep of the Rock, yet his warriors were being pushed back, and at their final hour, Supreme Grandmaster Azrael arrived with vital reinforcements. The greatest heroes of the chapter fought and died to ward off Vashtorr. Azrael himself was still recovering from his surgeries from when he crossed the Rubicon Primaris, yet he personally dueled Vashtorr. The tide of battle had slowly turned, but it was not enough to stop the Arkifane. Even the Grandmaster of the Deathwing, Belial, could not secure victory until a third force arrived. Suddenly, word bearers and more Alpha Legionaries arrived, joined by dark and shadowy demons. Be'lakor and his forces attacked both the Dark Angels, but especially Vashtorr and his armies. An almost guaranteed victory was robbed from him. And worse yet, Be'lakor did not come to defeat Vashtorr, but instead sought to delay him. The Dark Angels regrouped and immediately began a counterattack, sweeping away any boarding parties. The Rock, which was disabled during the opening stages of the battle, was recovered, laying waste to Vashtorr's battle fleet, and Orak Unleashed would nearly be destroyed, quickly limping away into the void. Vashtorr was forced to retreat, the last of his forces destroyed by the reinforcing Ultramarines and Nova Marines. The Dark Angels were quick to drag away Heretic Astartes for interrogation, and although the Sons of Guilliman came to their rescue, Azrael demanded they leave the Rock. Although Abaddon and Vashtorr made for a powerful team-up, their alliance was thin and filled with mistrust and issues. And as seen in Arks of Omen Vashtorr, the Arkifane demands that Be'lakor be punished and destroyed after this disgusting betrayal on the Rock.
Abaddon the Despoiler, come you here before me to account for the actions of the once mortal? Am I to believe you have muzzled the lurking mongrel for its misdeeds?
There will be an accounting for Be'lakor, Arkifane. It shall be at a time of my choosing, and in a manner I orchestrate. I am not your servant. You are a part of my plans, not a master of them. I would be more cautious in my tone of address, had I failed as you have to deliver upon your promises.
Not one of your lackeys am I, to be commanded thus.
One of my champions would not have failed so spectacularly to seize the prize from aboard the rock.
And yet one of them, it was, who engineered this setback.
Was it not you in command of the attack? Was it not you who failed to plan for such contingencies? I begin to question the founded talents of the Arkifane. A poor worksman blames his tool demon. How is it that your rivals have not overthrown your hold upon the soul forges? To Abaddon's surprise, this barb was not met with anger, but with a volley of vox static booms that he realized approximated laughter.
You seek to goad me, as though I were a simplistic mortal construct of primitive urges and flesh-bound mind meat. The embodiment of malevolent artifice am I, complexity, creation, experimentation and progress unbound. Blame is but an error to be actioned, time and operational constraint that only one of us here must obey. Sanity is the limitation of mortals that places the detail of my labors wholly beyond the capacity of your mental architecture. Negligible is the advantage you gain in these futile attempts. Unfavorable the expenditure of oxygen and energy. I would alter tack were I you, War Master.
Vashtorr and Abaddon continued to plan to get their hands on the Tukulcha engine. They would lure the Dark Angels into the Somnium stars, specifically the Idolatral system, to be ambushed. However, when the Dark Angels traveled to the Idolatral system, they did not do so alone. With them stood many of the Unforgiven, successor chapters, and a host of Imperial fleets. Vashtorr and his allies had insulted the Sons of the Lion, nearly uncovered their greatest shame, and he would now feel their wrath. The Unforgiven attacked the traitors, uncovering minor ambush forces and destroying them in mere days. Yet when the Unforgiven saw the broken planet that Vashtorr had chosen for his base of operations, a demonic obscenity, an unnatural rage befell them. To the traitors, this was just the Wormwood, the place where all of the key fragments were to be gathered and combined. To the Unforgiven, it was the ruined world of Caliban. When the battle was at its height, the trap was sprung. On the Wormwood, Azrael personally led his chapter in searching for Vashtorr. In the Void battle, however, the Black Legion tore into the Unforgiven fleet from one side and a massive Bale fleet from the other. While everyone was fighting, Vashtorr snuck his way into the rock and found the Tukulcha engine. He took it back with him to the Wormwood to finally forge his key. The Unforgiven were in the hardest battle they would ever face, and when the demon Primarch Angron and his Eater of Worlds appeared, even Azrael feared that they would lose the battle. Yet the Sons of the Lion, in what is perhaps their darkest hour, would not fight alone. Lord Commander Dante with the Blood Angels arrived at the head of a larger Imperial Navy fleet, coming to the aid of their battle brothers. The Unforgiven fleet was reluctant to accept their aid until Dante shared with them the news that changed everything. Lionel Johnson, Primarch of the Dark Angels, had returned and comes to save his sons. Within the Wormwood itself, the Blood Angels landed, and Dante himself lured Angron into a trap. The Demon Primarch was beset on all sides, but he quickly got his hands on Dante. A fight ensued, but before Angron could kill the old Marine, Lion stepped out of the dark and attacked his once brother. While the Lion and Angron fought, Azrael felt ashamed. There was so much work left unfinished, and to see his Primarch on his ruined homeworld stung him deeply. However, Azrael had no moment to dwell on his thoughts. Vashtorr had completed his key and created a new device, which he had dubbed the Dissonance Engine. If they did not leave now, all of them would die. In the end, the battle fought at the Wormwood was won by the traitors. Although the Lion, the Unforgiven and the Blood Angels survived, the traitors gained an incredibly powerful tool. The battle left both sides mauled. The Aurak unleashed and most of the Bale fleet were lost. But in return, the Unforgiven were weakened with little hope of recovering. News of the Lion's return would spread across the galaxy now, and Abaddon wondered if the return of a second Primarch could finally change the tide of war. While Loyalist forces fled, the Wormwood did the impossible. It opened a hole into the webway, taking with it the Black Legion to continue the search for the weapon. Vashtor's key is ready, his quest for the lock now begins, which is rumored to be on Mars, and then to harness the weapon itself, which will turn Vashtorr the Arkifane into a god. Since then, the only mentions we have had of Vashtorr and the Wormwood, which he now seems to be piloting like an asteroid ship through the webway, has popped up all across the galaxy, slowly making its way closer and closer to the solar system and bringing destruction wherever it arrives. But I keep saying that Vashtorr wants to become a god. I mean, it is what he asks of Abaddon, to help him become a god during the Arks of Omen campaign. But how does he plan to do this? You can't just randomly become a god. That's not how 40k works. It takes a lot of different things to get there. With the Wormwood, which is his new mode of transport, and the Dissonance engine, which is his theoretical key he built, he is hunting for a vault to open with said key. Yet what will this vault contain? One decently clear thing is that it both contains the tool with which Vashtorr will ascend to godhood, and contains the weapon with which Abaddon will destroy the Imperium. But is that it? Is that all they both want? Or is it something we have already seen in the lore? Maybe something along the lines of a weapon that turns a person into a god if set upon it long enough. Maybe a certain golden throne perhaps, or maybe even a certain void dragon who has been snoozing for a very long time. I am theorizing here, but I want to throw out some food for thought. Godhood is something that can be achieved in 40k through more than one way. Vashtorr is already a super powerful demon and literally called a demigod multiple times in the Ark books, but he's not there just yet. So for him to become a god is not impossible and something he should be able to pull off with time alone. However, as we know, you need faith from a large number of sentient things to truly rise to godhood, instead of becoming an extra powerful cloud of warp energy. Like, there isn't a button that makes you a god. There are steps that need to happen in the meantime to stabilize and grow a god. So what if, and this is a raw hypothetical with no evidence, Vashtorr wants the tools of the Old Ones by which they spawned and seeded life across the universe? Could you imagine Vashtorr populating an entire galaxy in races dedicated to Malovent Artifice and turning him into a god? It is a bit far-fetched, I have to admit, but what other things could he do to achieve his goal? Well, as we know, pain, emotions, and unfettered anything in reality empowers demons and gods. So instead of making new races like the Old Ones did, what if Vashtorr reintroduced a new dark age of technology? One where every species has to invent really hard and very quickly to hold off whatever horror Vashtorr unleashes upon the galaxy. This would, in turn, empower him and would grow his soul forge to the point it might even overpower the main realm of chaos within the warp. Humanity has stopped progressing when it comes to technology. While experiments and advancements do happen at times, looking at you, Call, it has become a slow crawl. Only the Dark Mechanicum really empower Vashtorr at the moment, and maybe the Tau, but I do think there's some soul and mental force needed to really empower Vashtorr in the warp. Like, the same example goes for Sisters of Battle. You fiending over a Sister of Battle does not empower Slaanesh. There are a couple more steps and extremes you need to perform for that to start empowering a Chaos God. Actually, talking about Cultist and Fate, let's take a look at Vashtorr's personal armies and followers. Of course, Vashtorr has many groups of followers and armies, specifically those who can be found in Soulforged war packs, although these war packs primarily consist of demon engines and soul grinders. They are far from the only forces sworn to him. The Arkifane has embedded his imps through the societal fabric of countless galactic civilizations. Wherever sentient minds employed imagination, the imps found purchase in superstition, becoming Gramlets, Illowills, Wire Djinns, Kako Sparks, and innumerable other spirits of sabotage and mechanical malice. Most of these war packs are led by the overseers of the Soulforge, the elite demon princes, actual sentient demon engines, and even Astartes warsmiths that are all entirely bound to Vashtorr's will. Actually, talking about soul grinders, did you know the soul forges, and indirectly because of this, also Vashtorr, were introduced in Warhammer 40K at the opening of 4th edition, with the introduction of the Soul Grinder box set. Here is the excerpt from the 4th edition Chaos Demons Codex that mentions a certain Hellforge that seems quite familiar. In the formless waste of the realm of chaos, there is a place that is perpetual cloaked in a pall of black, oily fumes, rank with the acrid stench of forbidden metallurgy, dominated by a cacophony of strident grinding and the wailing of uncountable tortured spirits. This accursed place is known as the Forge of Souls, where the blind, ever-mutating demon craftsmen of chaos eternally hammer at the creations in cyclopean smitheries. The black fires of these cavernous laboratories are fueled by the souls of the damned and kept roaring by colossal screaming bellows, manned by legions of semi-sentient nightmare creatures. From the dark bowels of the Forge of Souls come all manner of hideous and unholy weapons. By the means of perverse technologies of the artisans of chaos, demonic energies are fused with arcane metals to create great jagged blades, weeping swords, barbed steel whips, and other potent weapons and talismans to be used by the demons in their eternal warfare. But besides engines and overseers that work for him, and the soul grinders and other countless demon engines created by him, the master of these malevolent artifices also has a plethora of other followers. First, we have the massive group of indentured demons we talked about earlier. These are the poor souls that could not afford the contract after receiving their upgrades, so must now endlessly toil in the Arkifane's forges, or be used as fodder in the front lines of his armies, until he deems their debt to be repaid. Besides warp spawns, many mortals surprisingly know of his existence. Mortals dedicated to Vashtorr are often known as techno-cultists, who not only enhance their bodies with technology, but with Vashtorr can even be turned into metallic mutants. Many heretic Astartes have sworn themselves to him, some of which even from the Black Legion or the Alpha Legion. Most interestingly, however, Perturabo and his Iron Warriors have not sworn themselves to Vashtorr. The Lord of Iron has an uneasy alliance with Vashtorr, where the two have worked together before, and Perturabo even sent him warriors to attack the rock. But so far Perturabo has shown little interest in submitting himself to Vashtorr. Quick side note, Vashtorr is not directly connected to the Obliterator virus. We are still unsure where that came from, but I will make a separate video on them at some point. The undivided nature of the Iron Warriors, for that matter, still stands tall, their warpsmiths preferring to pay Vashtorr for his services, rather than offer him sacrifices and tribute. But of course, the most infamous followers of Vashtorr are the vast plethora of dark Mechanicum priesthoods that are fully dedicated to his service. There's actually a bunch of lore on these guys, and recently they are pretty clearly being set up as a new faction that can join the 40k tabletop, so I will do a separate deep dive on those soon. They deserve a full hour-long look at what it really means to be a part of the Dark Mechanicum. Let me know down in the comment section below if you would like to see that. But from forces and machines created by Vashtorr, he himself is also a walking arsenal, hacking machine, and so much more. Let's take a look at Vashtorr's wargear and range of crazy abilities. When Vashtorr fights, he wields the Hammer of the Soul Forges, a powerful demon weapon that essentially acts as a chaos version of a Grey Knight's demon hammer. In his other hand, well, I guess around his other hand, he wears a gauntlet that is essentially a built-in Melta gun. However, as a master of all things technological, Vashtorr does not just fight with physical or ranged weapons. Instead, he uses the weapons of his enemies against them. Power armor ceases to function, the guns of tanks are turned on each other, and machine spirits start wailing and misbehaving. Fighting the Arkifane is a nightmare, Electricity shoots out at random, attacking anyone who seeks to harm him. Wires like wiggling snakes ensnare those around him. Cogitators blare falsehoods that send generals into a panic. And even if you think you finally got him, stabbing him with a foresword or even a Primarch's weapon, he is still a demon, a strong one at that. He just reforms and comes back even stronger. So far, no technology has remained safe from Vashtorr. More advanced technology does require focus and a greater attention from Vashtorr to use for his own designs. But when he fought Azrael, the artificer armor of the Supreme Grandmaster was not subverted in an instant, but instead slowly started working against Azrael. I don't think that Vashtorr could completely turn off the Emperor's sword, but I do believe that if he stole said weapon, he could, over the course of a couple of decades, undo its demon-killing capabilities. So yeah, keep this guy away from Guilliman. I really wanted to add this little list into the video, as I think it's very fitting for the creator of the Soul Forges. Let's quickly go through everything Vashtorr has created so far in 40k. Number 1. The Arks of Omen. As previously stated, each Ark of Omen was a Space Hulk reforged into a titanic ship for different Chaos Warbands to use. Each Ark of Omen was therefore a unique weapon, but it had several standardized systems. Many were given additional weapons, void shields or gather fields, but all of them had to be bound by powerful wards. To bind the Arks of Omen, and to prevent rebellion by the corrupted and vestigial machine spirits lingering within their components' craft, Vashtorr personally inscribed ritualist wards on each Ark of Omen. Some took the form of colossal runic inscriptions seared right into the hull plates, or etched into countless passageways and bulkheads within. Others were immense runic chains, or altars and shrines. Number 2. The Flesh Metal Gangliaxles. Another common invention of Vashtorr is the Flesh Metal Gangliaxles. These cyber nematodes, essentially metal living veins, would connect the insides of a Space Hulk to all its different ships and parts. This allows pathways and otherwise separate decks from different ships to be melded and connected into a single command and control network. Each Ark of Omen also had a unique warp portal. Some were massive hangars or cargo spaces, yet these portals only open up one way and only for someone to deliver a key fragment to Vashtorr. Otherwise, these portals are completely useless and even deadly if used. The Obeliskane. An Obeliskane is essentially the Chaos version of a miniature short-range Astronomicon. Yeah, even Chaos needs these to properly and quickly navigate the warp. The Ferryman. The final piece of Vashtorr's inventions is the Ferryman. No conventional ship's bridge could be employed to command such a leviathan and unnatural a craft as a Space Hulk, nor could any conventional cogitator array or mortal mind reliably pilot systems so distorted by long exposure to the warp. Instead, where the vessel's gangliaxles converged, it melded with a demonic pilot entity called a ferryman. Grotesque meldings of iron and brass with twitching limbs, bulging eyes, and rippling warp-sensitive cilia. These entities served as both the ship's bridge and crew. They were bound to obey the commands issued by the master of their Ark of Omen, though in truth, their ultimate loyalty was to Vashtorr before any mortal. To finish this video off, I quickly want to mention the fact that Vashtorr is essentially already a god in the lore. Even during the Horus Heresy and the burning of Omad, it's time to take a look at the true Malevolent Artifice. If you have watched my video on the 8 Chaos Gods, then you know I have a theory for every single one of the 8 Chaos Gods of the 8-pointed star. And no, quick side note, the middle of the star is not a separate god. Whenever the Eldar mention the Primordial Annihilator, they mean the entire star, the entirety of the Pantheon. Every Chaos God is a Primordial Annihilator. Not sure who or what has been telling people that the Primordial Annihilator is a separate god, as it is willingly twisting the words given to us in every Chaos and every single Xenos Codex ever. Alright, side tangent over. To quickly summarize necessary information from my 8 Chaos Gods video, although I do recommend you watch it, as it helps actually understanding the Pantheon. The Chaos Pantheon consists of 8 gods. 4 are actively known: Khorne, Slaanesh, Tzeentch and Nurgle, and 4 are in a weird situation or really weak. There is Malice, who is a very weak god with no demons; Vashtorr, who is a demigod working to become a full god; the Dark King, whom I won't get into right now, again watch the video for more information; and finally a god known only as Formless Distortion. Why am I bringing this up? Well, all of the Chaos Gods have a direct rival. Slaanesh has Khorne, Tzeentch has Nurgle. Malice more than likely would be the rival of the Dark King, as one wants to cannibalize itself, the other wants to destroy everything. And so, that leaves us with Vashtorr, which is very clearly and self-stated to be Malovent Artifice, and then Formless Distortion. My argument for these two gods being rivals is based on their domains. Vashtorr is the progress of science, unbound technology, and with that comes the rigidity and assurance of steel. While Vashtorr can manipulate technology and metals at will, there is always something recognizable about what he makes, a very secure form, so to speak. Formless Distortion, on the other hand, based on what little we know, is something that is forever changing and mutating and has no guarantee. And while Vashtorr and Be'lakor fought during the Arks of Omen, Be'lakor did so, changing his forms into shadows back and forth. Be'lakor is known to weaken and attack other champions, but so far, these champions have all been dedicated to a single god. So why attack Vashtorr? Well, Be'lakor really does not like the idea of Vashtorr becoming a god, as he himself would also more than gladly become a full-fledged member of the Pantheon. Be'lakor, if he is really Formless Distortion, has a long way to come and rise to the Pantheon. Vashtorr's ascension, on the other hand, is most definitely guaranteed. Even if the Imperium survives and foils Abaddon's plans, Vashtorr will manage to become a full-fledged member of the Pantheon. And I mean, he already outright states he is Malovent Artifice earlier in the video. It doesn't get much more on the nose than that. And that does it for today's video. What is your opinion on Vashtorr? Should he have been reintroduced to the setting, or was he best kept as a footnote in an old codex? When it comes to his current story, how would you continue his campaign? What would happen if he unlocks the vault? Is the vault even real, or is it just another name for the Golden Throne, or maybe even that cave in which the Void Dragon sleeps? Let me know your comments, concerns, suggestions, theories and ideas down in the comment section below. If you think I deserved it with this video, please leave a like and hit that subscribe button. It helps push this video into the algorithm and it would make me very happy. Thank you for watching and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.